Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking for the very first time. Since this is my inaugural review, I figure there's no better time to lay down some ground rules. First, these videos are filled with opinions, so if you're one of those people that can't tolerate other people's opinions, then this isn't the channel for you. Second, I will only be reviewing games that I have personally played. So if I review a series in the future and you notice an installment missing, that's most likely the reason why. I just haven't played it and thus can't review it. Finally, this is not just a Nintendo channel or a Pokemon channel. I just decided to start with this series because it has a fairly extensive library and I wanted to start with a longer series. You can expect coverage of all types of games. With that out of the way, let's give it everything we've got. This is my review of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. For those unaware, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are 2018 remakes of the 1998 Pokemon game Pokemon Yellow. Developed by Game Freak and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo Switch in November of 2018, this was Pokemon's first journey onto the Nintendo Switch, and was more of a tie-in to Pokemon GO than anything else. It also featured the optional Poké Ball Plus controller, which I think allowed you to simulate throwing balls or whatever. Pause? I don't know, and I think you could also have a Pokemon in the Pokeball, but you couldn't see it, you could just hear it, because, technology, I guess. Oh, also, if you got the Pokeball Plus, it came with a Mew that you could transfer into the game, so yay, buy to win! I think it's because they knew nobody would want that controller otherwise. These games were received relatively favorably by outsiders, people who weren't really familiar with the series as a whole and were playing it either just to review it or this was their first venture into the series as a whole. And that's really what Nintendo was going for. They wanted it to be more accessible to new players while also keeping the charm and style of the original game that they were remaking. While seasoned players didn't really take to it that much, saying that it was way too easy, and that for Pokemon's first journey onto the Nintendo Switch, they really could have done a lot better, especially looking at Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Although Pokemon Sword and Shield would come out later to rectify that, although again, that game got mixed reviews, and you'll get my opinions on that much later. Oh, and a little fun fact some of you might not have known. Originally, these games were going to be Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Psyduck. Doesn't everybody love themselves a Psyduck? The decision was ultimately changed to Eevee due to Eevee's popularity and abundance of fan art. Oh, Jesus. I know some of you are wondering why I started with this game of all games in the series, and that's a valid question. I have played one game representing each and every generation of Pokemon games, and this is my stand-in for Generation 1. Because I don't feel like looking at this for hours, and I just haven't played Fire Red or Leaf Green. Pokemon is one of my favorite series of all time, but you won't really be seeing my love for the series here, as this is one of the weakest installments. I get that the game is supposed to be geared toward a younger audience, but Nintendo has been marketing the series to kids since the very beginning, so that argument doesn't really stand up unless they were trying to market this game to actual babies. Because that's the only demographic that will actually have any sort of challenge here. There is a lot to like here, though. For starters, every corner of the game looks polished and plays very well, and the overworld feels more alive than any Pokemon game that came before it, thanks to the constant presence of Pokemon. Also, the friendship dynamic between the player and either Pikachu or Eevee, depending on which version you picked, is a fun evolution of the highly underused follow mechanic, with some fun puzzle solving and team bonding moments sprinkled throughout the game. However, that's where the fun in the gameplay ends. The main change made to this game from previous and future installments is the battle system. Instead of having to battle wild Pokemon and weaken them to a state where you can catch them, you just huck balls into a circle with the most uninvolved controls, or everybody's favorite, motion controls. And boom, there you go, Pocket Monster obtained. And that's not the only way the battle system has been neutered. This game also completely did away with abilities. I know that Pokemon Yellow didn't have abilities, but that didn't stop them from giving Pokemon abilities in the Gen 2 remakes, or even the original Gen 1 remakes. At least natures are there. Hooray. The best thing this game did was allow for Pokemon box access from any location. In a game built upon catching as many Pokemon as you can, as that's the only way you'll be able to get experience,
Whoopsie!
So have fun catching 50 million Zubats and Pidgeys. This feature was all but necessary. On top of this, they also vastly expanded the box's capacity and organizational ability. So there's no real cap on how many Zubats and Pidgeys you can enslave and keep locked away forever, never to see the light of day again. Like I said earlier, there's no real challenge to this game, unless you actively try to go into gym battles underleveled or underprepared, or do a challenge run where you don't ever use your companion. You will practically steamroll every gym leader. Now, I played the Let's Go Eevee version, as Eevee and its evolution Sylveon are two of my favorite Pokemon ever, more on that in a future review, and Eevee's ability to learn one move of every type completely destroys any possible challenge, as you can outfit your Eevee to have all the move types the rest of your team doesn't have. And if you have a Pokemon to cover Eevee's fighting type weakness, you'll be golden. Personally, I used Eevee, obviously, Victory Bell, Slowbro, Hitmonlee, Ninetales, and Raticate. I'm no Pokemon master strategist or anything, but a basic knowledge of type coverage and team cohesion was all I needed to completely smoke every trainer. That's about it in terms of gameplay, but what about the story?
In terms of
Story.
we have no
Story.
It's a remake of the first generation, which itself wasn't heavy on story, so that's no surprise, but I like my RPGs to be thick and heavy with story, a concept that Pokemon seems to only agree with half the time. Aside from the standard story, if you can call it that, of collecting all 8 gym badges around the region and becoming champion, there's the evil Team Rocket. Far from the best evil team in the game's history, we'll get there eventually, they are pretty generic mobsters who don't add much to the story overall. However, the same description does not apply to the team's leader, Giovanni.
My name is Giovanni Giorgio, but everybody calls me Giorgio.
The team leaders will also fluctuate in quality over time, and Giovanni isn't the best one, but he still holds up over time. Plus, having him be the 8th and final gym leader was a nice merging of the 2 separate story paths before the conclusion. Now, I'm nowhere near being interested in the competitive battling scene, but I am one of the people who desperately wants Pokemon games to be more challenging, or at least introduce a difficulty scale like almost every other RPG in existence, and this is the complete antithesis of that. Overall, I definitely wouldn't call this a bad game, but it's far from being one of the strongest Pokemon games. I enjoyed it enough while I was playing it, but I don't see myself going back to it anytime soon. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. And that's it for my first review. If you enjoyed it, hate it, or put it on in the background for noise, let me know. Like the video, comment if you want, share if you feel so inclined, but you knew that already, you've been on YouTube before. This is your captain speaking, and next time, we delve into the story behind the heart and soul of the Pokemon franchise. I hope to see you there.